All right, welcome, troops. Great to see you on this expert interview with a very, very interesting, super talented Alan Stevens. How are you today, Alan?
Pretty good, thanks. And thanks for inviting me along.
Oh, it's great to have you. So, as you know quite well now, we like to bring great people to the forefront of so you can create a more empowering life, experience altitude, with your ideas, with your passion, with your vision, and with your service to others. So, Alan, you've got an incredible gift, and you've aligned it with, an unpacking of guess, your genius in a profiling tool and a formula that I'd love to go through with you today to help our guys and girls know themselves more, but also know their market, know their relationships, how they can work in the world. So first, would you mind introducing yourself just a little bit, what you do and how you came about doing the work you are right now?
Well, I'm actually a profiling and communication specialist, which came about from, really having the need to read people because I was very bad at it when I first started. And, it started when I was 23. I was put in charge of a group of people who were all older than me. My second in charge was 38, and so I had to get them on side. In my mid-30s, I joined the surf club, and I thought, great, same age as everybody else now. They got me to become the club captain, but then they pointed out to me that I'd only been there for 5 minutes, and they'd been there all their since I were nippers, and now I'm telling them what to do. Well, tough luck, guys. You put me in that position, but I had to then work with them. And then I went on to the local board for the local zone. So I was a zone supervisor. Mm-hmm. And then in my late 30s, my first wife left and I had to raise 3 boys on my own. Mm-hmm. So I'd gone from being the youngest to the least experienced to being right out of my depth raising 3 boys. So, and the experience I had was always bad at reading people, and I just started learning new skills, and that's how it came about.
It's fantastic. And it is a real asset. I remember first meeting you, and we're locked in some sort of, an engaging conversation straight away. It's always been a big intrigue for me. People, getting to know them, being able to work with them and energy at the same time. So I guess one thing to share with people at the beginning is, what have you noticed as being some of the most profound turning points in people's relationships when they dial into this profiling correctly?
Well, when they're able to read somebody else more effectively, first of all, they learn to read themselves. And when they understand themselves, they know why they do the things that they do. They know why their buttons get pushed. And it gives them that position of power where they can take control of their environment. They can structure their environment so that they then know themselves very well. So when they meet other people, they can then know how to change the way they want to be spoken to the way the other person wants to be spoken to. And that way they're able to connect on a more personal level. And reading people is all about building relationships. Yes. So we want to be able to understand the other person, talk to them in the way they want to be spoken to, so we bring everything together and we have great relationships.
Fantastic. I mean, some of our guys are obviously interested in things that are esoteric, metaphysical, astrological, but also grounded business practicalities. A profiling tool to understand themselves, what type of things can they understand from reading their own face, their own body language, those sorts of things?
Well, they understand on a scale with the rest of the world, with everybody else, how they take information in, how they like to be spoken, how they like to actually process information as well, then how they like to be treated. And then they can use that to then look at other people and understand how they are different and therefore modify the way they want to be spoken to the way the other person wants to be spoken to. And that just empowers them to understand themselves better. They also understand how other people see them as well. And that's always a great bit of knowledge to have, because we have an impression of ourselves, but it depends on how other people really see us. And we need to know that one.
Would you say, Alan, that it's like a subliminal knowing without us being able to clearly articulate when we look at someone, their facial structure, whether we feel at ease, comfortable, or off axis and anxious around them? Is that part of it?
Well, as far as reading people goes, when we were very young, we were very good at it. You know, the facial expressions on people's faces, we used to understand the emotions. But as we get older, because of everything else we're getting involved in, there is so much that's going on around us that it's like a muscle. If you don't work it, it atrophies. And so we started to lose that ability. But we also need to be able to recognize faces to know whether, well, is that somebody that we know? And are they somebody who may have done the wrong thing by us in the past?
Yes.
But where that goes awry is that we lose that understanding as to why we're reading people. So when we do see somebody who looks like somebody who has done the wrong thing by us in the past, we just get that, you know, really irksome feeling inside, and we then behave towards them in the same way we would have behaved towards the first person if they were still around.
Yes.
And we create a situation. So knowing that the facial features that just give you somebody's personality, it doesn't tell you how they actually like to think or how they, or the character, I should say. And by watching them, well, then we can pick up their character in their body language and their expressions and how that correlates or doesn't correlate with what they're saying.
Okay, interesting. So let's do a little bit of self-analysis or self-unpacking. So let's say, you know, on Facebook or social media, you've got a profile picture, and we've typically got our mugshot there. We're trying to look as cool or as approachable as possible. What does that say, telling us? Like, if we look at ourselves in the mirror, are we going from the shape of the face? If you don't mind taking us through some of those types of attributes or characteristics.
Yeah, well, the first three things that we notice in anyone's face is the width of the face, the height of the eyebrows, and also the spacing of the eyes, whether they're wide set or close set. Yeah. If you think about the height of the eyebrows, well, it's like fear and surprise when the eyebrows go up. So if somebody's got naturally high set eyebrows, you know, they seem to be reserved, they seem to be more pulled back, and we also feel the same way towards them. Yeah. So being able to recognise what that trait really means. It doesn't really mean whether they're friendly or not, but it's how we perceive it. Mm-hmm. We know that all the tests they've done where they've looked at the width of the face, when you have a wider face, they seem to be more confident. And in fact, in their, they have an innate self-confidence, whereas somebody who's got a narrow face, they build their confidence by needing to do things over and over and practicing it. And then those with the close-set eyes are very focused on what they're doing. Don't interrupt them while they're doing something that might be stressful. It's got them really involved. They're trying to get it fixed. They've just got to fix it themselves. Whereas somebody who's got wider set eyes are quite happy to be distracted from that stressful situation, and they're more open to having people come and say, hey, give me a hand. So then you can look at those traits and know how that person's like to behave in any situation, but you also know how they're going to be as a boss, how they're going to be as a team member. Yes. And then you can teach them on the difference in other people, how to actually read the other people and then talk to them in the way that they want to be spoken to. So connecting with them more effectively. Okay.
And things about cheekbones or ears or hair, or lips and chin, that comes into effect too?
I'm looking at about 68 traits in total, and up until around about several months ago, it was 68, but then I've added more traits to it. So I'm looking at about 80 traits. Right. And in that, you can work out how the person takes their information. Is it got to be in a structured order, or can it just bounce around? How much information do you give them? Are they analytical? Where they have, yes, it might be a big picture person, but they want to analyze things deeper, as opposed to somebody who just give me the big picture that I'll make a decision on that very quickly.
Yes.
So you can imagine someone who's analytical talking to somebody who's big picture. Well, some of your listeners, I'd say to them, well, have you had the experience where you've been talking to somebody, everything's been going beautifully, and then all of a sudden the other person switches off? That's more likely to be that you're analytical and they're big picture. You told them what they needed to know, but then you kept talking. So you sold yourself into the sale and then sold yourself back out of it again.
Nice one. So would that be the case, even though you can't see the person, do you look at voice and tonality, or do you look at, obviously, how can you pick some of this stuff up through the ethers, so to speak,
Well, with technology today, I jokingly tell everybody I'm a social media stalker. If I'm going to go to talk to somebody, the first thing I'm going to go is to their LinkedIn page, their websites, where I can find a photograph, their Facebook profiles, Instagram. Yeah. If I can see their face, then I know their personality. I know how to talk to them straight away. So I teach business people to how to read somebody else's face. If it's on LinkedIn, for instance, look at the face, know their personality, how they do things, look at what they wrote about themselves, and instantly know whether they can do that work or not. So if you're going to hire them, you know whether to hire them or not. And if you're going to actually go and sell your service to them, you know how to put your presentation together to talk to them in the way that they want to be spoken to.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And that just makes it so much more easier to connect with them. Because nobody buys a product or service you have. They buy you.
Yes.
You know, they like you, then the end result is they're going to do business with you. And so you've got to build that rapport instantly.
Yes. And so everyone's got their own unique makeup, but there's like a filer, I guess, or like categories that you can be put into with facial width and eyes and those sort of things that you draw. Yeah, it's not like a game of guess who. Does he have a beard? Does she, wear glasses? That sort of thing.
With psychometric profiling, we put people into boxes, and psychometric profiling has a real place, especially if you're advertising a position and you've got one position and you've got 40, 50 people applying for it. You don't really have the time to profile everybody by their face. So you use psychometric profiling, you can put them into different boxes. But with mine, and I have had a couple of profilers in the psychometric profiles who have said, oh, this is great. Well, look at which facial features fit into which box. And I start training them, and then, oh, yeah, that facial feature fits into that box. Then all of a sudden, oh, with that trait, now it's over here, and it moves around. So with 68 traits that I started with originally, 39 of them, you either had the two extremes or a position in the middle, so A, B, or C.
Right.
29 of them, you either had the trait or you didn't. So the combinations were 3 to the power of 39 times 2 to the power of 29.
Right.
Which is a very big number.
Yes.
It's a 2 with 27 characters after it. So I don't use categories. I look at your face and go, what stands out the most first?
Yeah.
What stands out second? Does that moderate or enhance that trait? So if you have an analytical trait where you actually want to process everything, but you also have what I call a physical motive trait where you like to just get to the action, you'll move fairly quickly. You'll go through it and then go to action. But if you have a mental motive, which is somebody who likes to think of all the different possibilities, that second trait's going to enhance the first trait with analyze, and then they're going to look at more possibilities. They'll be longer. Whereas the first one, where it was analytical and a physical motive, the physical motive moderated the actual analytical. So this is when you can then realize that as somebody walks past you in the street, you can profile them. You don't need to ask a question. You're not restricted by age, gender, religion, sex, culture. It's just based on the facial features.
Wonderful. So, yeah, the mind's boggling right now. So you mentioned something paramount right at the beginning. We must get to know ourselves first, and it's of every spiritual practice and every deepest law that know the self, love the self, heal the self, all those sort of things. So, have you got a bit of an overview that you could walk us through as to how people could start to profile themselves or do, in the mirror or a photo or whatever it may be, to help them on their entrepreneurial journey or help them, share their gift, I guess, even more?
There's, on the 3 traits that I said, think about those first of all, is, yes, I run courses and everything else. We're trying to explain to people here now how they can just go straight to the mirror after this and do a little bit of profiling of themselves.
Yes.
But those with a wider face just have a natural, innate self-confidence. They hear things for the first time and they think they've got it. We don't know whether they got it until you put them to the test. Yeah. So if you're selling to somebody or presenting to somebody who's got the wider face, they're more than likely going to react very quickly and go, yep, I've got that. But you'll then ask them a few questions, down the point of, well, having known that you know that, in your situation, how would you apply it? And you get feedback so you know whether they know it or not. If they have a narrow face, they build their confidence by doing things over and over. So they're going to take longer if you're selling to them to actually get their head around it, so you don't rush them. And just remember yourself, if you've got that narrow face and you go, okay, well, yeah, do I do a course and then do I just go out, when I learn something for the first time, do I just go out and start applying it? Or do I take on and check and learn a bit more? See, I'm a massage therapist. I was in the technical field, so I was all about business when I first started. I ran my own companies. I became a massage therapist with aromatherapy. I thought, well, what else do I need to know? So I went and learnt colour therapies and sound therapies. And then I put all that together, and I still wanting to learn. I've been a student of life because I've got that more narrower face. Mm-hmm. So you know that person is going to want to think about, they're going to ask questions, or they're going to mull it over in their own mind. So they're going to be slower to actually make a decision. So don't rush them.
Yeah.
If they have the high set eyebrows, these are people, it's not that they're not friendly, but they're more discerning. They want to stand back from people when they walk into a room and check out and see who's safe to be around and who's not safe to be around. Mm. Whereas people like myself with the low set eyebrows, we just go straight in and just start talking to everybody. And because every trait's got an upside and every trait's got a downside. The downside of the person who's very affable up front, they're easy to get conned because they can't see the wood for the trees because they're too close to the tree.
Yeah.
They just walked up to everybody. Whereas somebody who's more discerning, they're less likely to get conned by somebody, but they're going to be perceived to be less friendly.
Yes.
So how they stand, the clothing they wear, what the colour makeup, that sort of thing that they may have, the grooming of the face with the beard and all the rest, that will then make them look either more reserved or less reserved, more friendly. So excellent. Those traits, and somebody who's got very close eyes, these are people who are focused. If they're busy on something, don't go and interrupt them because they're not going to appreciate it. If you're a boss and you've got someone with the close set eyes and they're working on something, especially got a narrow face as well, and they're really involved in it, you see they're a bit stressed, you don't go over, tap them on the shoulder and say, come over here and give me a hand, because you just told them what they're doing is not important. You're far more important than them. They may come over physically, but emotionally, they're not going to be there. They're still going to be on that problem over on the other side. But if you said to them, how much time do you need? I can see you're busy. I see it's important, so you acknowledge it. How much time do you need to get that to where you can leave it? Would 5 or 10 minutes be okay? If they said 10 minutes, I'd go back in 11 or 12 and actually make a point of, look, I've given you a bit more time so you can make sure you got it in place. Can you come and give me a hand now? So now they physically come, their mind might still be on the other problem. It's also going to be on helping you. But if you add to that, if you can really help me now and we get this buckled down and get it done quickly, you'll be able to get back to your problem. Their whole focus will come to giving you a hand.
Excellent. Excellent.
And you know that the person with the wide set eyes, they're just looking for someone to interrupt them. But it's a great trait to a boss to have with the wider set eyes because they're open to anybody coming and knocking on their door with any issues at any time.
Yes. So okay. Anything else on that? This is great. Really good.
Well, when you look at, there's a bit of a fold on some people's eyes. I've got your photograph in front of me, so I'll very quickly have a look. Yeah, yours are like mine. The actual eyelash, there's a fold of skin above it, and the eyelash just goes underneath it. Yeah. So we have what we call concealed eyelids, which means we're analytical. We need a lot more information. We need to analyze it before we make a decision. Yes, we can pull a lot of concepts together. We can look at a big picture, but we don't make a decision until we've got all the details. Someone who hasn't got that fold and it's exposed, they are people who just want the big picture. So you and I have both had that experience where we've talked to people and everything's been going fine and they just switched off after a little while. Well, if we talk to them, best way to introduce, if I see that person's got the exposed eyelids, there's no fold of skin, or you'll see a bit of a groove well away from the eyelash, then I'll say to them, look, I'm going to tell you about this. There is a lot of information I have to tell you, but what I'm going to do is give you the big picture first. And I guarantee you'll see an expression of, oh, great, a relaxation on their face. Yeah. And then you'll say, well, I'll give you the big picture. Then you can ask the questions that you want to ask. And if you don't cover the things that I have to tell you, is it all right? Then I'll tell you about those then. And they go, great, I'm not going to be talked at. So tell them the big picture, ask them their questions. If there's things that they haven't asked, you say, well, look, remember I said at the beginning there were some things I had to tell you. We haven't really covered them yet. So, that boring stuff is all right if I cover that now. You usually get a bit of a giggle from them or a bit of a smile and away you go. So you end up having the time it takes to do a sale. It might be longer, it might be shorter, depending on the person's personality. But the timing then is perfect for each of those people. Right.
So, well, just on that, I know if you're listening to this and you've had I'm sure you've had a similar experience, many similar experiences as to the one I'm going to share, where you're essentially interviewing a prospect to see whether they're a right fit for you as a client. And you've asked a question and they are so indirect in answering it. They go into a story and they are filled with, I guess, a level of detail that is past ridden and problem deep rather than future aspiration. Does that come into it? And how would you suggest to navigate that if you're on the phone with them, for instance, and you can't cite them?
Well, this again, it's in the steering of the conversation. You know, the tone of voice, or the words we speak are only about 7%. On the phone, they go up to about 17%. The tone of voice and the body language, they just mesh together. So you can get an idea of how the person, where they're sitting, standing, etc., when you're talking to them on the phone, from the power in their voice. It's like if I have to talk to somebody, I have to lay down the law. I'm going to be standing up. And thank God for cordless phones, because I'd start walking around pacing just gently so I don't run out of breath. But I'm standing up, shoulders back, and I can talk to them in a demanding way or a commanding way. So it's going to be in the way in which you direct their questions, but you're not going to be able to profile them from their facial features if you haven't got a picture of them. But it comes down to how you actually state it. But you'll know that by the time, if they're going into a lot of detail, listen to the detail. If they're waffling, if they're losing direction, etc., it's going to be down to fear or something else. If it seems to be structured and everything else, there's a pretty good chance they're an analytical person.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that they think they need to know to actually be able to do what they did. So therefore they need to tell you that, thinking that you need to know that as well.
Yes, that makes absolute sense. Yeah.
But it's always going to be in the structure and that of how you ask the questions. But if I'm doing an interview, I wouldn't really do it over the phone. It's always going to be face to face. You know, at least on Zoom where I can see them. Because, well, if you think about it, the facial features tell you the personality. And if anyone wants to know, well, how do the features work? You know, the ridges, the crevices we have on our face as well, those things from using muscles over and over. You know, if we think really deeply, we pull the eyebrows together, we're going to build these ridges. Those muscles you work all the time are going to change shape. So that's what we're reading, a history in the face that tells us, especially the what we call the nurture traits, the way the person wants to respond in their life due to their environment. You're going to be able to see those. But then at the same time, we have the facial expressions and body language. And those are going to give you a lot more information when you're talking to them. So you can have somebody telling you a story, but do the expressions on their face, do the body language match up with what you're hearing as well? So this is why I use the facial features to understand their personality, know how they need to be spoken to, etc. I then step back and go, okay, well, what words do I need to use? How do I structure the language? Find the right words that are delivered either formal, informal, in a structured order, a lot of detail, small amount of detail, all based on their personality traits. And then I've got the body language and the expressions, which are the cues that I then watch while I'm talking to them, give me accurate feedback. And if that feedback is in line with what I've read in their face and the way I'm talking to them, then I know I've got rapport with them. And I've got a connection with them. And then by the questioning techniques, I'm using open questions, probing questions, and closed questions to actually get to the truth of something.
Yes.
So ask somebody to explain, describe, or tell you something. They're the open questions. And they will tell you a lot of detail. They'll tell you what they want you to know.
Yes.
Then you use the why, where, the what, when, where's, and how's, etc. And that's when you narrow it down. Once you've got very narrow little holes, you know the stuff that they didn't want to tell you, and that's when you ask your yes or no answers. And through there, you're watching their body language and the expressions on their face, and you'll start to see those changing. You'll pretty quickly know that they're not telling you the truth. There's stuff they've been trying to conceal.
Yeah, it's such an art form, isn't it? It really is an art form. It's so interesting. So go on, as you, yeah.
I was just going to say that people, you said it's an art form, and it is. It's a science that's been turned into an art form, as my sign up the back here says.
Yes.
But it's not so much a gift that I had, because I said I was very bad at reading people. Number of divorces, a lot of relationships, bad business partners. And it was through necessity I had to learn. Then people say, well, can I learn it and do it as well as you? And I go, well, if I'm teaching you, I expect you to be better than me because you've got everything I've got plus your own experiences.
Yes.
But yes, you can learn it because I learned it.
Good. Well, that's I guess, a perfect segue to, what would you say is the next logical step for those people that are interested to know more about profiling, working with it, and utilizing it with themselves, their relationships, and even, with their business too?
Yeah, well, first of all, when you look at reading people, because it's a basis of relationships, it covers every area of life. If you learn it to understand how to sell to people better or how to build your teams more effectively, because we know at the moment the number of disengaged in the workplace is, extremely high percentage, over 87% worldwide.
Yeah.
So to use it there, well, then you find that what you learn there, you'll actually use with your spouse at home. You'll use with your friends. You'll end up using it to raise your children as well. But for someone to learn, well, one of the things that I do is I like to share knowledge. And I like people to get an understanding, because the more people who understand how well this works, again, the more they want to actually learn it. So I started doing Facebook Lives, first of all. And I do those on a regular basis. So unless I get caught up with other aspects, it's usually Mondays business, Tuesdays on children, Wednesdays on personal relationships, and Thursday, Fridays, I'll just go into, a variety of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But then from there, some people go, well, I want to know specifically for me. Well, then have a chat with me is the best way to do it. It's obligation free, where they tell me their situation and I can then tell them how, or what's the best way to go. And if I'm not going to be the answer to everybody for everything. You ask me and I go, well, I think there's somebody else who's better for you. I'll actually send you on to them. So it's always...
Oh, you're not talking about like a partner. You think you should be married to someone else?
No. I do get a lot of people going, here's a photo of somebody I'm thinking of dating. Should I date them?
Yes, I'm sure.
But no, if they call me and they say, look, I've got issues at work, and I go, well, it's not so much, yes, the profiling, you need that, but really what you need to actually is work on some of the other issues that are in there. Might be emotional issues. So that would be another therapist that I would direct them to.
Yes.
Another practitioner. Or I'd work in collaboration with that other practitioner, because the client's always going to be our focus.
That's right.
Not our modality. So with that, the other point there, some people go, well, I just want to learn this at my own pace. Now, where I train people face-to-face and over the internet, I had a lot of people saying to me, well, I'm on the other side of the world. I can't get to you at your time, even via the internet. How else can I learn? So I put my courses up online. So I pre-recorded smaller courses where they can go and learn a little bit, practice it, test it out. If they then want to learn more, or they want group programs for their organizations, anything can be designed. You use the skills anywhere. Any program can be designed for any situation.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. And getting to know ourselves is fundamentally first. And exactly. So know thyself. Was that Socrates or one of those other?
I think it was Socrates. But it's very much the case. If you don't know yourself, you don't know how other people see you.
Yes.
You don't know how you actually compare to a world scale, for instance. Every one of us will look at it and go, okay, we're the center of our universe, and everybody else is either to the left or right of us.
Mm-hmm.
But where are we on the world scale? I might have all these, look at everybody and they're either that way or they're that way. But am I down that end of the scale, or am I down this end of the scale?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know myself, then how do I know how to change the way I want to be spoken to? How much do I change it for that person? So I've got to know myself first. So I always say to people, the first thing is either getting yourself profiled, or if you're learning from me on how to profile people, you will learn how to profile yourself.
Yes, it's very important. And I guess it's a good reflection point to understand why potentially, engagement or relationships haven't worked, or that sort of rapport building. And some people have expressed to me in the past, I feel so anxious, or I feel frustrated, or that I'm not gotten or heard. So I guess understanding ourselves, we can sort of share with others, well, I like detail. Can you tell me more about that? Or don't go the detail. Tell me this dreamy future state that can keep me enrolled and excited in that,
That's it. So if we know ourselves, we know how to actually connect with our partner more effectively. We even know what sort of partner we should be looking for.
Yeah.
Now, we all communicate differently. We talk about the 5 love languages, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service. Well, with understanding the other person's personality, their facial features and things like that, well, how do I speak those words of affirmation? What sort of physical touch? When is that touch appropriate? In what sort of situations? So understanding the personality levels at this level, it takes the 5 love language to a completely new level again. But I quite often get people who say to me, look, I'm looking for a new partner. And one of the traits is when someone's got a larger, full lower lip, it's wide and it's thick as well. This is somebody who gives very quickly. Quite often without thinking, they give their time, they give their money to anybody who comes along. Mm-hmm. I had a young woman say to me, should I go out with this guy? He's got the larger lower lip. And I went, well, you need to know yourself. Are you looking for just to get as much as you can quickly? Or are you looking for a long-term relationship? So I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I said, great, okay. Next thing then is, do you need to know that that he loves you by what he says, or do you need to see it? And she went, I really need to know it. Him saying it's not enough. So, okay, if he buys you an expensive present, he's got the larger lower lip, he's just naturally going to give you presents like that. So the end result is you don't know whether he loves you or not. Mm-hmm. The person with the narrower lower lip it will just give just as expensive presents as well, but after they've really thought about it. So if you get a present from somebody with a narrow lower lip, then that it's expensive. They've thought about it quite a bit before they're giving it to you. So if they're giving it to you, then good chance that they love you or they care very much about you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So know yourself, not only your own traits, but also what motivates you, what you're looking for in life. Yeah. So you and I both have aesthetic appreciation, and this is in the horizontal eyebrows where they're fairly flat.
Oh, yeah.
This is because, it's all about how it feels inside. When we get stressed about something, we go into our internal thinking. We got to fix it. We're thinking about it. Someone who's got the more angled up eyebrows are more striking, which is what we call dramatic appreciation. They're natural presenters, but they also do stress the same way. When they get stressed, they have to externalize it. So if you've got a partner who is, they're exciting because they've got the striking eyebrows, they're great fun to be around, they're outgoing and everything else. But then when they get stressed, that can start to wear it down a little bit, especially when if we go quiet because we're working on something. Oh, what's wrong? Is it me? And next thing you know, there's all these questions. So we withdraw further and they ask more questions. It can be a real killer in relationships simply because the person's looking from the point of view of one with striking eyebrows says, I need to know what's going on and I've got to keep asking. And the other one's going, I need to fix this and I can't do it while you're talking.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a very good video on YouTube that I'd go and just do a search on the name. It's Not About the Nail, Nail.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you the story about it. It's just a woman who's talking and she's talking to a partner and he's trying to tell her how to fix the problem. And she's going, no, you don't. I just want you to listen. But it's quite funny because it really highlights just how crazy the difference is when we're actually talking to other people and we don't know their personalities.
And what's the title again? Just so we...
It's Not About the Nail.
It's Not About the Nail. It's so good. So good.
I saw it in Sydney at a presentation. I actually used the same video in a presentation the other night. Got quite a lot of laughs because we were talking about how to communicate and the difference in the way we communicate. So that got them all in a very good state when I put it up. So it's definitely worth going and having a look at. You get a good laugh.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's really good. We'll definitely do that. I guess in just rounding up, you've mentioned a couple of times that if people would like to, I guess, advance their own personal knowledge and start to look a little deeper into profiling and this nature, you do have a course. Is that right? So you've got an online course. Do you want to give us just a quick overview of that? And we can.
Well, for people who want to just get a quick start on it, when I put the first course together, which was a dating course. It was called Smart Online Dating. It was put out just before February last year. But then after that, I put a business course together, which looks at 8 traits on building instant rapport. Mm-hmm. Shortly after I put it up, it was then picked up by a real estate RTO and recognised for anybody in the real estate industry for their 12 professional development points they need each year. So they can do the course and get those 12 points this year. It's now been picked up by about 7 or 8 other industries, finance, health, lawyers, dentists, etc., in the same level. And that course is available online, which I'll give you the link for that. And
somewhere around here you'll see a link to that information, people.
Yeah, because I could spell it out, but it's quite a long link because I'm using another platform to actually put it out. So there'll be 2 courses there, and the third course, which is specifically for real estate agents, is on that platform. I also do that same program where if a group of people want to do it and they want to self-pace, because just recently I've got a school on the Central Coast who have now come on doing a pilot program for the teachers so that they can recognise the learning styles of the children so the kids don't go through the cracks. We'll have less kids put on medication. We'll have kids who are happier at school, be less bullying, and therefore less suicide attempts. And so with that, I'm using that same course, but I'm drip feeding it over a couple of weeks or 6 weeks. Well, I do a module each week, and they get a mentoring program with me where I get together with them and go through and bring it all together so they understand not only the traits, but how they work together and how to recognise the change in the personalities when you moderate those traits a little bit.
Powerful.
But
so
I was just going to say, if anybody really wants to get a feeling of, well, why should I bother looking at this? I always say before you look at the course, just go straight to my website, go to the success story page, and that's where everybody has put their videos up there on what they've found and how they're using it. And that covers mental health, it covers schools, it covers raising children, it covers business. It covers all those different areas. So watch some of those videos and you'll see what other people have achieved.
Great. Well, we'll have those links available for everyone so they can go and check out your site and the information on your course as well. So I just want to say an absolute thank you for the information. We could talk for hours. I'm so fascinated by this and, holding up, photos of our family, of famous people, of, whoever it is. Learning the art and science of profiling is so important on the entrepreneurial journey, on the healer, the coach, the thought leader journey, and to understand the self first is without doubt.
And that's
premier.
It.
Yeah. So thanks, Alan. Thank you for your time. And thank you for watching. If you want to get in touch with Alan or know more about his course, around this video, you'll see that information and the links to help you out with that. So Alan, have a phenomenal day and we'll be speaking again real soon.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye now.